Good evening everybody and welcome to the webinar on getting to grips with ICT in the post-primary classroom. My name is Damien Duffy and my email address is damien.duffy@sculwardtrim.ie. I'm our school's maths and ICT teacher and I'm also our ICT coordinator. So if you have any queries or questions about tonight's webinar, please feel free to email me directly on the email address on the screen. This evening we're going to look at 6 key areas. We're going to look firstly at the different types of devices that might be used in your school. We'll then take a look at the Microsoft Office 365. This webinar is mainly focused around the Microsoft Learning Tools. Then we'll take a look at QR codes and how they can help share information and support student learning. We'll incorporate ICT and CBAs as we go throughout the evening. Then we'll take a look at Mentimeter, so an online-based learning platform. So we'll only take a look at one of them. And then finally, we'll have a look at how ICT can support additional educational needs within the school. So we'll take a look at Immersive Reader, Dictate and Subtitles. So I've done a separate webinar on more in-depth ICT to support additional educational needs, which you can check out if you feel like you want to. So first of all, we're going to just briefly look at the different types of devices that you may use in your school. So in our school, all our teachers would have a Microsoft Surface Pro device, which connects wirelessly to the overhead projector. We would have 6 trolleys throughout our school for student use, made up of mainly of the Microsoft Surface Pro, and then we would have some of the second one there in the middle, the Lenovo ThinkPad and the HP laptop. Our PE department would have a dedicated trolley then of Apple iPads. So all our students and staff would have their own Microsoft Office 365 account. So they would have their own email address and password, and then they can use their Teams and Outlook and OneDrive and so on. So first of all, let's get started on looking at Microsoft Office 365 in a little bit more depth. As I said, we're going to take a look at Teams, OneDrive, OneNote and Streams, and we're going to basically start from the start when it comes to Teams and how to set up a team and how to use it then to share and collaborate with your students. So if you're like my own school, you would have been given an Office 365 email address and password, and this is the face of the homepage for office.com. So within here you have all of the different apps. So down on the left hand side here you may have some of them already showing. If you can't find the one you want, so say for instance Streams or say for instance PowerPoint aren't showing here, click on the 9 dots here and it'll show up all of the other icons. So as I said, we're going to take a look at Teams first of all, and Teams is a great platform for sharing and communicating with both students and staff. So when you click on Teams, it should show a page like this. Now this is a newer version of Teams. If you're on the older version, it just has more of a blue background, but most of the features are very similar. So before we get into setting up a team, I just want to show you a couple of the features here down on the left hand side. So the first one here I'm going to show you is this chat function here. So I'm just going to click on the chat here for a second. Now the chat function is great for communicating with students or fellow staff members. It's basically just a messaging platform. So if you want to send them a message, you click on the new chat, type in the name of the person. So I'm just going to type in Damien Duffy here, and I can send them a message by just coming down here and typing in a message. I can also send them an attachment. So if I had, say, an exam paper I wanted to send them, so I just click on upload from my device. I'm going to go to my desktop here and I have an exam paper that I want to send them. So I'm attaching an exam paper here that I want to send directly to Damien Duffy. So I'm just going to click on this little arrow here, which means send. So Damien should now receive that document coming through on his device. You can see over here on the right hand side a little tick, which means it has been sent. And when Damien goes to his device and opens up that message, after a second or two on my device, that little tick then would go to a little icon. So you can see it here. It looks like the eye. So it means it's been seen. So you can see if the student or teacher has read that message. Now I've sent that just to one person. You can also create groups here. So say for instance you are running this school student council or Green Schools, you could set up a little chat function here with numerous people in it. So you can just add more people when you're creating your new chat. So that's the chat function. Very handy To go back to your overall teams, just click on Teams here. We won't delve into these areas here around calls. Calls is just as it says, you can make a call directly to a fellow teacher or set up a meeting. So if you're working from home, or when COVID hit, we were working off the calls and meeting part of Teams. So next area now we want to look at is how to actually set up a team. And to do that, just click on the plus symbol here, create a new team. You get 4 different choices here. If you're setting it up as, say, a deputy principal, you're going to set it up as a professional learning or staff. If you're a teacher and you're setting it up for your students, click on class. So this screen will come up. I want it to be just the general, so I'm going to use this template. Name your team. So I'm going to say it is 5th year Irish. And I'm going to put the year because there's many 5th year Irish classes. So I'm just going to say 23-24, and I'm going to put my initials after it to say that this is my team. So kind of maybe signpost it a little better, maybe by putting your own initials at the end of it. So even when the students are searching for teams, they know to search your one. So I'm going to click on create here. In the next screen now, it's going to allow me to add students to the team. So I'm going to add Damien Duffy here to the team. So I'm just going to type in his name. So you can add all the students to your team. Little dialog box now comes up saying, do I want to add Damien as a member, or I can add Damien as an owner? Normally it would be the teachers that are the owners. So my students would be members. As an owner, you just have more rights in what you can do within the team. So the owner can add people, remove people, things like that. So keep your students as members. Then you click on add, and your team should now be set up. So I have my 5th year Irish 23-24 DD team created. I'm just going to click on the teams icon here for a second. So when you have maybe 6 or 7 teams or even more, you'll have them all iconed here on this screen here. Then you just click on your individual team and you get a screen then like this. So this means I'm in my 5th year Irish team. Down on the left here, you have some different subfolders created. I'm not going to go into too much detail here on the likes of assignments and grading and things like that. So tonight, we're just going to look at the class notebook and some of the other features that you might use within your team to begin with. So the first area you'll notice here is what's known as the posts page within your team. This is very similar to the chat function that we looked at just about 2 or 3 minutes ago. The chat function was a one-to-one messaging service with maybe one-to-one to a student or to a staff member. Whereas this post section is a messaging board which goes out to your 30 students within your 5th year Irish maths class. So I'm just going to send a message here to everyone in the team, and I'm going to just put a heading on it, and I'm going to say homework, and I'm going to say please complete for homework. Now what I would say is, if at the start of your message use the @ symbol and type in the name of your team here, and what that does is it sends a little notification to everyone in the team that your teacher has uploaded some work or a post basically on their team. So when I send this on the student's team on their mobile phone or on their own device, this little activity symbol will indicate that they've received a message from me, and they'll receive that when you put the @ symbol here. They can then reply to my messages and they'll appear on the screen here as well. You can also make, so say for instance, I wanted to send, I forgot to attach it here. So I'm just going to say, sorry, now find attached. I forgot to attach the document. Click on the paperclip, upload from this PC, and I'm going to put in this exam paper again. So I'm asking him to complete this exam paper for homework. So I'm going to send that now, click on the wee arrow, and that message has now been sent. So they are going to receive that message on their own school team. So that's the post section. Very handy way of communicating with your students. Now they can reply to you. So I'm just going to actually reply here on my own computer, and you'll see what it looks like when they reply, hopefully. Yeah, so Damien Duffy has just replied and said thanks. So it's a communication between you and your students. Next little section I'll show you here is files. So I'm going to click on the files icon here. This is where you may upload all your documents that you want to share with this particular class group. Now you'll notice actually when I went into files, the exam paper that I sent them in posts has automatically gone into the files section, which is handy. It means you don't have to upload the documents twice. So whatever you put in posts will be moved into your files as well. Just a little thing to be aware of here. If you upload anything here in your files, the students can come along and actually delete this or move it or download it. So if you want to save material within your files in Teams that you don't want the students to edit, you have to put them into class materials. So if I click on class materials, you see a little message appearing here now in a second, which says read-only class files go here. So as I said, if you want to upload a file here that you don't want your students to be able to delete or edit, it has to go in here. Now what you can do here is actually, if I go back to my document, see this exam paper, I can move it into the class materials by clicking on the three dots here, scrolling down to move to, and you can then decide to move it into the class materials if you wish. So where do I want that to go? I want it to go into my class materials. So I've clicked on my team and I'm going to put it into class materials here and move here. So that document has now been moved into the class materials now in a second. So it just takes a moment. What you can also do within your class materials, you can create subfolders. So just click on new, create a folder, and you might want to call it, say, chapter 1 or something like that. So I'm just creating folders within folders. So that's the file section in Teams. Very handy way of sharing information and building a bank of resources for your students to be able to go back and find. So that's the posts and files section within Teams. If you want to go back to your overall team, just click on Teams here on the left and then click on each individual team. So that is the posts and files, as I said. Just a little thing to note, I personally prefer using the app version of Teams rather than the online version. I'm on the online version here of Teams. As you can see, I'm on the internet. If you have your school device, I'm sure you have the Teams app, like this one down here on the bottom, installed on your computer. As I said, I personally prefer it, so I'm just going to click it on it here. It just means that I'm not on the internet browser every time I'm using Teams. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're using the app or the online version. They're both synced, so you can see here that on the app version, my teams are appearing up as I speak. So it doesn't matter which one you're working off. I just prefer the app version because it means I don't have to go onto the internet every time I want to get into Teams. So like I said, that's files and Teams. Next area we'll take a look at here is the class notebook. Now the class notebook is linked to your OneNote. So you may have heard it being called class notebook. You may have heard it being called OneNote. The class notebook is embedded within Teams, and then when you create it, you're creating it then on OneNote. So I'm just going to set up a OneNote here now. So set up my OneNote for class notebook, and I'm going to click on a blank one. Now you'll see a lot of different headings appearing here. So I'll show you these in a little bit more detail when we set up our OneNote, our class notebook, in a second, but you can take a read of them there if you wish to pause it. It's just telling you what's in the 4 different subfolders that are going to be created now in a second. So click on next to create your OneNote. You'll also notice that each of your students, so if you have a class of 30, each of your 30 students will get their own OneNote that they can use individually. Now the good thing about it is you as the teacher can see each of those students' individual OneNotes. And within their OneNote, the sample one here has been generated with 4 folders. Now, as a maths teacher, I may not want to be giving them quizzes or class handouts, but I might want to create a section here called CBAs. So I might want them to keep track of their CBAs on their own OneNote so that I can keep an eye on it as well. So I'm now going to create it. It does take a minute or two to create it, so just bear with it. So this is the screen that you get when you create your OneNote for the first time. If you click on the 3 little books over here, you'll then see your team appearing. So it has, as I said, these 4 sections here, welcome, collaboration, content, and teacher only. Damien Duffy is the student. So if you have a class of 30 students, you will have 30 students listed down here. Let's start from the student. If I click on the little indent, it shows the folders that the student can have. So they'll put their work in class notes, they'll put their CBA work in here. You can see each of the 30 students, whereas on the student's phone or device, they can only see their own one. Just to go back up here on some of the other little features, you have collaboration space. Collaboration space is where both you and the students can collaborate together. So they can edit the material, you can edit the material, they can delete the material, and so on. Personally, I don't use the collaboration space. I use what's known as the content library. The content library is where I can edit material in here and the students can only view it. So I use OneNote as my whiteboard in class. So everything I do on my whiteboard goes into this content library. So I can edit it, I can upload to it, I can put in notes, I can put in videos, but the students can only view it. They can't change anything. Then there's this extra one here called teacher only. This one is only visible by me, the teacher. What I use this for is maybe my schema works. So I put my schema works in here so I can only see it, the students can't. So like I said, if you're getting into the swing of this for the first time, I would get into the habit of using the content library. As I said, this is where you put material and the students can see it. So using the content. Here, a little message box appears getting started. So you can read that yourself when you set up your first team. After you set it up, it's nice to just get rid of it. So right click on it and delete it. I don't need it anymore, so I'm just going to get rid of it. So here's my blank, as I would say, whiteboard for my 5th year Irish class. So I want to create a page here. So I'm going to add a page and I'm going to call it chapter 1. So I'm starting from the very start. Then I might want to add in another chapter and let's call it chapter 2. So here I have these little subfolders called chapter 1 and chapter 2. Now, again, you also have the class notebook which can open onto an app version, which I as well prefer rather than the online version. Here you notice that my class notebook here is embedded in Teams. So it's very small. It's kind of crammed down here in the right hand corner. You have like Teams over here on the left. So if you're not using Teams every day, like I don't use Teams every day, but I would use my OneNote, my class notebook every day. So what I do is I work in the app version. So to get to the app version, just click on editing and open in desktop app. So it can take a minute or two to load because it's importing all of the data and so on. So here's my OneNote. Now it's a little bit more user friendly, as you can see. The team is gone from down on the left hand side. Just click on these little 3 arrows here and you'll bring up your team again. So the first thing I want to show you here is the draw function. So I'm just going to come across here to the draw. If you have a Surface Pro or a device that has a stylus pen, you can write on your screen. So I would use this as my screen in class. So I'm just going to write down the word hello here. So as I said, I would use this as my class. You can then minimize the left hand side here by clicking on the 3 little parallel lines here to make the screen bigger. You can turn your handwriting into text by using the lasso function here in the OneNote. So if I want to lasso that and click on ink to text, it turns your handwriting into text form. It also works if you're a maths teacher like I am. So I'm just going to click on the pen here again and I'm going to do 2x is equal to 6. You can lasso it and you can turn your ink to matte. And I have 2x is equal to 6. So I'm going to insert that. So again, it's turning my handwriting into typed version. Now, a good thing about OneNote also here, let's just stick with the maths for a second. If I lasso that again, my 2x equals 6, I have this feature here called Maths Assist. If I click on Maths Assist, what it can do, it can solve the equation that I've put onto my OneNote. So I'm going to click on solve equation and it's given me the answer. You can go a little bit further and you can click on steps for solving linear equations. So it's giving out my steps here. So this is helping those additional educational needs students. Maybe if you're a resource teacher, maybe not teaching maths so much, you could maybe use this feature to help students. What you can also do here is you can click on this immersive reader, the little book here. And if you click on it, it will read the steps to the student or to yourself on how to solve that equation. So you can see here, up pops the steps, and I click on the little play button.
Steps for solving linear equation. Step 1.
So that's called the immersive reader. Can be handy for those students, again, that mightn't be able to read the steps themselves. It can also create practice questions. So if I click on practice, it gives me similar questions, an infinite amount of questions, similar to the one that I have out here on the left. And I'm going to check my answer and I'm right, so I can then go on and do another one, so a next one. So that's the Maths Assist feature. If you're finished with it, just click on the little X here. What you can also do here in your OneNote is you can import, say, a exam paper. So say, for instance, I want to insert a file here. So I want to insert, say, a printout of a file rather than an attachment. I want it to actually appear in it. So I'm going to go back to my desktop here and I'm going to bring in that exam paper again. So it's importing that exam paper that I have, and I can now zoom in on it, I zoom out on it, again helping those visually impaired students. I can go back to my pen here and I can write on it. So $1 is equal to 0.9 cents. I can then highlight things. I can use my ruler here. You can underline things. So there's great features, not just for maths teachers, but for all teachers, using this, say, for the pens, the rulers, and importing documents. You can also bring in media. So you might want to bring in a video. So if I go to YouTube here for a second, I have a video here that I want to bring in. So I'm going to right click on that link in YouTube. I'm going to bring it back to my OneNote and I'm going to right click and paste that into my OneNote. So it's bringing in a YouTube video as well that can support students looking back on material that they might have missed. So again, in our school, as I said, all our students would have their own teams on OneNote, so they can look back on this team to see what they missed in class. And you can see here that it's a never-ending screen. So if I'm doing a chapter in school, say on algebra, I have a little file here called algebra, and it has all the algebra in here. So it's a never-ending whiteboard, basically. I know you're looking at it saying, if this is your whiteboard in school, it's very heavy with all this material around the edge. You can make it a full screen by clicking on the full page view here, and it makes it a full page view. So if you're using it as your whiteboard in school, you can make it full screen. Just hit on the little arrow and it comes back out of it. Let's come back here to another, I'll just tidy it up here and come to chapter 2 for a second. What you can also do is you can change the layout of your OneNote. So you can change the background colors and so on. You could rule it here. So I want to maybe be an English teacher or a language teacher. I'm going to rule my copy. If you're maths, you can put in the grid here as well. You can change the background color. So if you have students that maybe prefer yellow, you can change the background color here as well. So Class Notebook, OneNote, they're kind of intertwined. As I said, it's Class Notebook when it's in Teams and OneNote when you're in the app. And this is a great way for creating, managing, and sharing content with your students. So there's lots of different features there that you can kind of play around with yourself when you create one. But as I said, the main one I would use is the draw feature here. And if you want to bring in a document, just click on insert. The beauty of this is you don't have to save it. When I X out of this, so let's just come back here to a second. So I have this document. At the end of class, I just click on the X here. And I'll go back to my Teams. So I'll go back here to Teams and I'm going to click on continue. You can see now that I'm back in Teams. So I'm just going to bring it back to the very start here for a second. So I'm going to go back to the very start. Here's Teams. Click on your team. And down on the left here, I want to go to my OneNote under Class Notebook. And you will see here that under my chapter 1, when it appears now in a second, click on the library books. Click on my content library. This is where I have all the material. And under chapter 1, you can see my maths that I was doing there a minute ago. So you don't have to save it every time. That's the beauty of Teams and OneNote. One other feature there that some teachers, particularly language teachers, use a lot might be in here. I'm just going to click on Class Notebook here. You can distribute a page. So say, for instance, you have a sample essay that you want to distribute to every student without photocopying it. Just click on distribute a page and follow the instructions here, so you can have a group distribution or an individual. So maybe you just want to send it to one student. Maybe it's a booklet for their CBAs. So You click on the group distribution and then you decide where you want it to go. So they're fairly easy instructions there, but I let you kind of play around with that yourself. So click on class notebook here and then distribute a page. One other feature before we move away from Teams is, say for instance, one of your students maybe leaves the school, drops to ordinary level, and you want to remove them from your team. If you come over here and click on the 3 dots and click on Manage Team. This also works again if a student maybe moves to your school and you want to remove them. You can see here that I'm Education, so I'm the owner, I'm the teacher. Damien Duffy is my only member. If I want to add members, I can add them here, or I can remove them by clicking on the X here. So that's how I remove a student from my team. To add them, click on the 3 dots and click on Add Member. You can do other little bits here under Manage Team. You can go into the settings here and maybe change the admin rights and things like that. Don't get too bogged down on any of this just yet. The main one you want is the members. Say for instance you get a PME, just make sure and add them to your team. You're going to click on owner for that person. You want to make sure the teachers are owners and students are members. To get back to the start, just click on Teams and you're back to your different icons of the different teams that you may have. So I'm just going to come back to our overall evening's presentation here. So we've looked at Teams and we've looked at OneNote. OneDrive is your cloud for saving information, but I suppose if you're using Teams, most of your information there has been saved in files and Teams, which is on your cloud basically. And where that is going then is that if you're saving information, always save it to the cloud. Don't be saving to your device, particularly if it's a school device, because something might happen to the device and you lose all your information. So save it to your OneDrive. So I'm just going to go back here to my Office 365 here. You can see the home page, and everything then that I would be saving on Teams would be going into OneDrive. So just make sure you save everything to OneDrive. So if you have a Word document, make sure and click on File, Save As, and save it to your OneDrive rather than this computer. So just a little thing there to be aware of. The final area of the Microsoft Office 365 platform that I might just explain is this one here called Streams. Streams is a great way of sharing videos with your students, similar to the likes of YouTube, except it's on the Microsoft 365 platform and you can put in certain rights that only certain people can see your videos. Maybe it's just your class and things like that. So it's not like YouTube, maybe where everybody can view it. So Streams is a video sharing platform built into Microsoft. So to open Streams, you're back to your Office 365, click on the 9 dots, scroll down and click on Streams. You can see here that I have one video uploaded to Streams. If you want to upload your videos, click on Upload, find the video on your own device, so say for instance this one here in trapezoidal rule, and click on Open. And that'll upload the video. It takes a while because you're uploading large files. If you want to share this now with your students, you may just want to be careful on putting in certain restrictions on what they can do to the video and who can see the video. So first of all, just click on your video and we'll change around some of the access to the video. So here's the video I want to share with my 5th year Irish team. First thing I'm going to do though here is click on the top here where it says share, and I'm going to scroll down to click on Manage Access. Here it's going to allow me now to share the file with certain people. So I'm going to click on the grant access here, and you can type in the name of the people you want to grant access to. I just want to grant access to say Damien Duffy. And I want to click here on he can view it or he can edit it. So edit it, I don't want him to edit it. I just want him to be able to view the file. So that's just the first thing that you might do. And then you click on grant access. Another little thing to look out for when you're granting access is, let's just go back here to manage access for a second. And I'm going to click on start sharing here. Again, this is just another way of doing it, but you can type in, say you're Damien here again, and I want to share it with him. If you look what it says here, anyone with the link can edit. So the problem here is that I send this now to Damien. Damien's going to send it on to his mate in another school and he can view it. So what you want to change here is I want to change this again to can view only, but I also want to put on further restrictions. See what it says here. Anyone, share with anyone. I don't want that. I want people I choose. So I only want Damien to be able to see this. And what do I want him to do? I want him to view it only. And I want it blocked that he can't download it. So he can't download it and then send it on to someone else on their phone. So just little restrictions there that might be worthy of applying every time. So who do you want it to send it to? They want to view only, and you want to block downloading. So that's just a little bit of information there. Then I can send it directly, or I can copy the link to the video. So let's put back in Damien here again. I'm going to copy the link. And what I might do is I might go back to my Teams for a second, just to show you what you can do. And in your Teams, you might want to put it into the posts section. So imagine I have my access granted to my whole class here. I'm just going to say, watch this video. And I can then drop in the link to the video, and I can post that then to the overall class. Now you can see here it's saying one or more people will need your permission to view this file, because I just said Damien, but I would have granted it to my whole class, and then the video is in Teams for all of my students to see. So a great way of sharing videos that you've created. So I've put it in Teams, but I've created it here in Streams. Next little area we might look at now is the QR code. So the QR codes, as I said earlier, are a great way of sharing information with your students. It's basically like a little barcode. And what I do in my class is that I put a video or a link to a video on the barcode. I get them to cut it out and stick it into their copies, and then they can scan the QR code with their phone and watch back on a video. So it's a great way for students self-learning. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. There's many different ways you can do it. I'm going to show you through a Word document. So I've opened up a blank Word document here, and I'm going across here on the Home tab to add-ins. If you don't have add-ins here, click on the little indent here and scroll down to more commands, and you'll be able to find it in there. So I'm going to click on add-ins, and I'm going to get a QR code creator. Now there's loads of them, there's many different types. So click on more add-ins. I like this one here, QR for Office, so that's the one I've picked. So if you go to more add-ins here, type in QR for Office and then use that as your my add-ins. So it'll appear here every time. So just to go back here, Home, Add-ins, click on more add-ins and add this one to your list. I click on it. Give it a second here to load. And you can add links, say, to your YouTube video or your Streams video. If it's YouTube or an article maybe in the Irish Independent or something like that, or to a sample answer on a website, just click on the HTTP. I'm just going to click on custom here because the custom one is for my own Streams video. I then right click and I paste that link that I copied earlier on. And you can see here it's creating a QR code. So I click on insert. So it's now inserting a QR code that links to my video that I showed you there a minute ago. Now what I would do is I would copy this. So right click and copy. And I would paste it many times on a page to save paper. And underneath it then I would just write, like, say, algebra video. And I would then maybe make 6 or 7 of them on one sheet and then cut it out and stick it into the student's copy. So very easy and very quick. Basically, just to recap on it, all you're doing here is, let's just X out of this for a second, click on your add-ins, click on your QR code, go to the website that you want to copy a link to, and just paste it in here. Then click on insert. So that's an easy way of sharing information with your students. Perhaps it could be a way of students working for CBAs. Maybe they might put their CBA on a QR code and share it with you that way. Just go back to our overall evening's webinar topics here for a second. So that was the QR codes. As I said, the ICT and the CBAs, we've kind of been incorporating as we've gone along here. So as I said, maybe it's good to create a OneNote folder for CBAs. I know our English teachers in our school would use devices for recording the students' presentations, and they would share that then among the English department on their own team. So if you're sharing the recordings to be analysed by the other teachers, share it through your teams. That's one way I know our school does. And we'd also have, as I said, 6 trolleys of devices in our school. So our teachers would bring a trolley to their classroom and use the devices then for their CBAs. And as I said also, all our students would have their own Office 365 account. So they're logging into Teams and their emails so they can share all of their information with their teachers. So next area we'll take a quick look at is an online based learning platform. You've probably used this on some of the different day courses that you've been to before. Just to give you a very quick demonstration of how it works. So it's called Mentimeter. So to set up a Mentimeter, you go to your internet and type in Mentimeter and create an account. So that's the heading of it there, Mentimeter. Just type it into Google and click on login, and this is the home page that you get. And I want to create a Mentimeter for, say, my class. So I'm going to click on a new survey here. So click on new survey. I'm then going to click on a blank survey and click on new slide. I then want to open-ended questions. So I just want the students to be able to type back a response. So I'm clicking on open-ended. I then set my question. How was today's class? So I'm getting a bit of AFL here. So I'm just writing a question. How was today's class? I then click on present. The students go to their phone. They type in menti.com and they use this code here. So I have gone to that and I'm just going to type in a comment here and show you how it works here. So I'm going to submit this and up pops my response. Very good. So the students can type in their feedback here. So you might ask them a question. What's your prior knowledge of probability? So they can put in like chance and fractions and things like that into their responses. So a great way of getting feedback. Just a little thing to look out for though is that you can see here that I don't see the name of the student's response. So maybe just be aware of that. Responses are anonymous. So just maybe link in with your acceptable use policy or rules of use of devices within your school. So just be a little bit aware of that. So that's Mentimeter. As I said, just be aware that it's 2 different websites here that you're going into. It's for you, the teacher, you're creating it under mentimeter.com, and then the student will just have to go to Menti. Just follow the online instructions there to set up the Mentimeter. Okay, so the last few areas we may look at is around supporting additional educational needs within the classroom. And as I said, there's another webinar that looks at this in a lot more in depth. So if you want a full webinar on the uses, on the different apps available to support AEN, you can check that out. But tonight we're just going to look at 3: Immersive Reader, Dictate and Subtitles. So Immersive Reader, I'm going to show you through Microsoft Word. So I've just opened up an article here that I have in a Microsoft Word document. The Immersive Reader though works in a lot of different platforms. You've seen me briefly use it in OneNote earlier when I was reading out how to solve equations. It also works on Bing, that I can read news articles as well. So there's many different platforms to use it. I'm just going to show you through Microsoft Word here. So I'm clicking on the View tab up the top. Come across here to Immersive Reader. And it's going to basically read back the text for me. So I'm just going to go back here to the start of the text, click at the start, and I'm going to click on Read Aloud.
The Irish government is strongly resisting a European Commission bid to seek a slice of Ireland's corporate.
So hopefully you can hear that. You can change the settings here. Read speed, you can speed it up. You can change the voice, male or female.
Sector profits as a way to replenish the...
You can change the color background here. So maybe you prefer yellow borders. You can change what's known as line focus. So you just wanted to focus in on the line that's been read out. So let's play it again.
European Union budget. RT News has learned. Irish officials have said the move.
So it's reading out the line that you want to focus in on, so you can change that back to the full. You can also have the text spacing. You can spread it out a little bit. And that's about it. So if you want to exit the immersive reader, just click on Close Immersive Reader. So just to recap on that, you're going into the View tab here and clicking on Immersive Reader. I'm going to stay in this document here for a second and show you the next one, which is called Dictate. You're on the Home tab, come across here to Dictate, and it's basically going to type exactly what I said. I have a red pen, comma, a blue pen, comma, a black pen, and a green pen, full stop. Now it should put in, it hasn't for some reason, it hasn't put in my comma, but you can see there after blue pen, comma, a black pen, it should be putting in a comma and a full stop there at the end. I'm not sure why it didn't work for me there. I might just give it one last go if you have time. So let's say I have a red pen, comma, a blue pen, and a black pen, full stop, end dictation. Okay, so to put it in there. Sometimes you might have to just say end dictation at the end, but you can see now it's put in the commas. I don't know why it didn't work there for the first time. There's little things though you might have to look back on, but it's a good way for students that might have maybe an injured arm or something like that they can't write, so they could use that dictate function in their own time. So again, that's on the Home tab. Scroll across to Dictate, click on the little microphone, and then when you click on it, it'll come up as blue, and just click on the blue icon again to finish. That's the Dictate feature, which is a speech-to-text technology. Basically, it's writing what you say. The next area we'll have a look at is subtitles. So I'm going to come back here to my overall PowerPoint for a second. So this is the PowerPoint I've been working on this evening, and I want to use subtitles. So I'm going to come across here to my slideshow. Over on the right hand side here, you'll see always use subtitles. So I'm going to click on it. Subtitle settings, it's set from English to English. So I'm going to play my slides here again. So from current slide, and you can see, okay, just ignore that. Down the bottom, you can see that it is putting up the subtitles for what I am saying here. So you can change the settings. You can have it coming down the side. You can have it appearing up the top. So that's the subtitles within PowerPoint. Now it only works in PowerPoint, doesn't work in Word, and you have to play your PowerPoint for the subtitles to appear. This is great again for students that might have hearing difficulties within your class. We also use this when our Ukrainian students joined us. I'm just going to come out of the PowerPoint here for a second. What we did is we changed the subtitle settings. So the spoken language is English, and the subtitle language we changed to Ukrainian. Now you can also change it to many different languages, as you can see here. I think the Irish is still, it's still a preview language. So maybe some Irish teachers can check that out themselves. But you can see here, if I play it from the current slide and I start speaking again, it should be putting up the subtitles from my English spoken word into Irish. So you can change it from English to a different language. Also works the other way. Maybe you're a French teacher and you're speaking in French, but you want it to appear as English on the subtitles. So that is us coming to the end of the webinar. So we've looked at the different types of devices, Office 365, QR codes, ICT and CBAs, online-based learning platforms, and finally supporting additional educational needs. Like I said, if you have any queries, feel free to email me there on damien.duffy@skullwearatrim.ie, and thanks very much for watching our webinar.